How do you create safe space for yourself?
Beats the fuck out of me.
This is Reid from ReidAboutSex.com.
Cathy from the intimacydojo.com. I swore right at the beginning of the video.
I know.
Fuck! Oh! Did it again. Right. How do you create safe space?
Well, actually, you were the one who was sharing in the last video that you create space ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually curious how you create safe space. I create it differently than you do.
Yes. So I would recommend that people go to a Cuddle party, so cuddleparty.com, and check out that kooky, awesome workshop that I was a part of creating many years
amazing.
Ago. The techniques for creating safe space are pretty much woven into Cuddle Party, because the idea around Cuddle Party is it's a communication workshop around non-sexual touch and affection. But the communication and intimacy part is about how you use communicating, which is hard for some people to get the hang of because we live in a society where we're not supposed to speak up about things. But when you're surrounded by people who, for the most part, don't speak up about things, and you know how to speak up about things, you're basically, in the land of the blind, you're the one-eyed king or queen. So the interesting thing is, as you start to be able to use your words and have clarity about what your needs are, which is different than being needy, you can voice things in a way where a lot of people are just looking for clarity and context. So when you can create clarity and context for people and give them permission to say yes or no, they feel safer around you. And it's my opinion that the reason they feel safe is you're using a particular technique to create your own sense of safety, and then you invite people in to step into that. It doesn't guarantee that everybody will follow the rules, but the people that won't follow the rules are either just evil, and there are actually very few actually evil people. Like, intentionally, they know the rules, they're gaming the system. Because if you really do the math, being decent actually has a better payoff than being evil in a world now where it's very transparent because of the internet and blah, blah, blah. But then some people are just clunky at following rules you create, which often means if you like them, they will get better very quickly at being clunky. And it's also okay for you to disinvite people from the safety that you create. This is all prefaced by the fact that I'm a 230-pound, 6'1" white guy who has a couple of black belts. So how the world occurs to me is very different than a lot of other people's life experiences. But these tools seem to work really well for people, and there have been tens of thousands of people who've gotten these tools from Cuddle Party over the years.
Yeah, I run Cuddle Parties, and I was really nervous at first, and most of the time, if you explain really clearly, that's the whole point, is you're just defining the space and the rules. And I've had one person I had to ask to leave, and it wasn't anything scary. It was just he couldn't understand that no meant no. So we had to say, okay, you can't come anymore. But when I'm walking around in the world, it's different for me. It occurs as different for me when I'm in a group of people and I have my caddies and some people I know, and we've all agreed on these rules, versus when I'm walking around in the outside world and people aren't necessarily looking to follow my agreements. Like I'm not leading that per se. They haven't opted in. And there are people that are it's not so much the evil people I worry about as the people that are so hungry or so frustrated that they're lashing out of that pain. So
you used to be a lifeguard when you were younger. How do you deal with people who lash out as a lifeguard?
Well, you don't put yourself in danger, first of all. The first rule of lifeguarding or any rescue is don't add to the body count. So you try to rescue them without getting in the water first. You have the hook, you have a towel, you try to lure them to the side, and then if you can't, you get in the water and you try to, again, rescue them without putting yourself at risk, because they will climb over you and drown you if they can. And then you have skills to get out if they do that.
So having that permission to not have to save somebody because you don't want to add to the body count, did that make being a lifeguard feel safer?
Yeah. Whereas if I'm sharing vulnerably and I'm getting close to someone. So we started talking about this because we were talking about sharing vulnerably or when to share stuff. so for me, I'm going to test people a little bit first before I open up the really big things.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before I get close enough so they can grab me and pull me under.
Well, the other question around sharing vulnerably, since we're having a conversation about emotional safety there, not necessarily physical safety, what's the fear that the things you're sharing? What is the fear that you have of them misusing it? What would that look like? We're not respecting the vulnerability.
So again, some of this may not be likely to happen, but I have a fear of it because I have been assaulted. There's one, I actually did have a date that got so angry at me, I was afraid he was going to hurt me. So the extreme is someone who's triggered enough that they're emotionally triggered enough they're going to be physically violent. But on the emotional side, if I share something vulnerably, hopefully people are taking it in the kind context, but things taken out of context, like, wow, she's a nutcase, or she's just a basket case and she has all these issues, or telling people things out of context could be very hurtful. Okay.
So if you create context.
Right, but I want to know that my friends who hear that context are going to have the compassion to understand it and hopefully not repeat what I shared privately, but we don't always have control over that. Mm-hmm. And I want to trust the person to share compassionately should they speak out of confidence. Like, I'd prefer people weren't going around and taking little bits of something and sharing it in a mean way. Mm-hmm. So I tend to...
That sounds like vetting. Like how you assess and vet people. Mm-hmm. And have you found a way to do that in a way that makes you feel safe?
Yeah, I openly share a lot of things. We share a lot on these videos, and I'm like that with my friends. But I do have...
we're all friends here.
Yeah, we are. I tend to... There's certain things that are still either sore or just private, mm-hmm. and I tend to share them more slowly with people. And I'll share something small, kind of take a baby step, and see how they react.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what do you think? Yeah. How do you create safety for yourself around vulnerability? Or physical safety with people? Leave a comment.
Thanks for tuning in, Sex Geek. If you would like to continue with the brain sex, do me a favor and click subscribe right here. If you'd like to watch me on social media, that's where you're going to go. Next video, maybe? And if you really would like your own Sex Geek t-shirt, please click right here, right now. Boop. No, really, like,